Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this is the first Indiana Jones film I actually watched in the cinema. We were on holiday at the time, and we were in North Wales on holiday, and it was a rainy day, and we'd gone out somewhere to do something for the day, but the rain was so bad, my parents decided, the cinema's showing stuff in the daytime, let's go to the local cinema. What was on? Indiana Jones. And yes, we'll watch that. And I was like, yes.
X marks the spot.
Oh, and Dad loved it as well. My dad loved Indiana Jones. And this is a father and son movie. So there was a lot of bonding went on between me and my dad that day over the film, I think, because the whole Junior.
Don't call me Junior.
Sean Connery, Indiana Jones' dad in it. There was a lot for us to both relate to. Became special film in that way.
Well, to me, this is my favourite of them all.
It is.
I believe
it's a lot of people's favourite. So I was going to say, sorry.
I believe this is the first one I watched on videotape, because we had them all on videotape, and I believe this was the first one I didn't watch them in order, clearly.
Wouldn't have mattered anyway, because they're all over the place.
That's it. So, but this is I believe the first one I watched, and this is my favourite, and this is the film I adore.
Yeah.
That's in my kind of top ones to keep on going back to keep on watching. It's a real comfort film, I find.
Yeah, man.
And talk about it, Spielberg originally wanted to do a Bond type film. He gets Bond himself.
Who else?
Connery.
Yeah, who else to play Indiana Jones' dad? James Bond, of course.
Has to be.
What? Trust me.
Like I say, it's a few years later, and I remember at the time they made a lot of fuss about the fact that Harrison Ford was only about 11 years younger than Sean Connery, or something like that. It wasn't quite enough years for him to be his dad, anyway.
Yeah.
But they sell it because Harrison Ford was always so quite youthful for a lot of years. He was probably pushing 50s in this one, but he's still pulling it off as if he's in his 30s, because this one takes place in 1938, so I think a year or two after the events of Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it is Nazis again. And this time it's brilliant because we get to go to Germany and the castle and the Hitler rally and the whole bit. We get a full serving of evil Nazi bastards to get tucked into with this one. Of course, the Holy Grail, which was a massive part of that side of historical culture. We had books like The Holy Blood and The Holy Grail, which later went on to influence the Da Vinci Code. That was in the sort of public consciousness. So it was a great selection for them to say, like they did with the Ark of the Covenant, let's go to something that's supposed to actually exist, comes from Judeo-Christian religion, this idea of the chalice of Christ, giving everlasting life. Brilliant. That's all we need. That's going to be the thing. Like you said, we're bringing the dad in with this one. So it starts with young Indiana Jones, who is played in this case by the greatest actor of the day, the wonderful River Phoenix, brother of Joaquin Phoenix, who unfortunately died at a very young age, just a few years later. I think would still be now like up there with Brad Pitt and the rest of them, as he was the greatest. He was the James Dean of his generation. At the time, 1989, I'd be about 10, 11. And River Phoenix was just like, this is the guy we all loved as, our sort of generation. He's brilliant. And he gets to play Indiana Jones as a kid. So the first scene is them as scouts, right? And there's a guy and his team that are doing some tomb raiding to find something called the Cross of Coronado, this golden cross. It belongs in a museum. We get that whole idea of that being reinforced. The guy and his team as well he looks like Indiana Jones, because they almost hoodwink you. They don't specifically tell you it's him at first, but you got this guy with the fedora. So it's like almost like saying this is where he got his style from. The leather jacket, the fedora, the rest of it. He even gives him the hat at the end, doesn't he? Which is a great sort of switch to Harrison as a grown-up, where they do the hat and it goes down and comes back up.
Yeah.
But a great opener. I loved all that. And it explains, again, as I said earlier, we got a call back to the reason he hates snakes is because when they're running along the trains, he falls into basically a big pit of snakes, isn't it? And he's like, oh.
There's a great bit with the whip as well, where he tries to whip and
yeah, and
hits
explains the reason that Harrison Ford's got this huge scar on his chin, just naturally from life, you know. So they put that in as if to say, well, that's where he got the scar from.
Exactly. Beautiful storytelling. To dip into all the bits and explain things.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, great opening. That then, obviously, we'll come to this a little bit later, but you know, this is like the kind of first setup for, we're going to do a young Indy thing. It's the first taster of that.
Yeah.
And then, yes, then we get into...
Well, yeah, I mean, the end of that scene introduces the character of his dad. Even though we don't get to see him at first, he's just there, and he's like, Dad, he's trying to tell him, you listen. And he's like, making him count in Greek or something. Then we see his dad's diary and this obsession with finding the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
So that kind of ties into that. So, you know, fast forward a little bit. Again, we're going back to college. He's the college professor again, reinforcing that, which they kind of left alone in the second film. So it brings us back to that setting, and Denham Elliott's character comes back, Marcus Brody, Mr. Marcus Brody. It's great that they bring him back. They bring Sola back as well from the first film, John Rhys Davies, another great character that we didn't mention earlier. Fantastic that he gets brought back to do some stuff there with Denham Elliott's character. So I think they thought, look, we strayed a little bit from the formula. We suffered for it. Let's bring some of these elements back in, and we'll bring James Bond in as his dad, and we'll kill loads of Nazis again, and we'll have a proper artifact. So they learned their lesson, basically. Yeah. By the time we got to The Last Crusade. And also, I think at the time, it was a feeling of Harrison Ford's getting a bit older now. He's not going to do this anymore. Sean Connery's getting older. He's only got so many films left in him. Let's do this one. Let's make it a great one. Let's bring all the old boys back in, and then we'll call it a day, and it'll be a great trilogy. And for years it was.
You have chosen wisely.
It is, and it was a get the gang back together film, wasn't it? And but it worked brilliantly for it, and they kind of just went hell for leather and went, well, what can we do then?
Yeah.
And it's a real. This is a film that is set piece after set piece.
And it's comedy. It is such a good comedy. There's so many laughs in it. I mean, never mind all the stuff with Sean Connery. It's just so funny. All the Junior, don't call me Junior, all that great stuff going on. But you also, even before he even gets together with his dad, he turns up at the castle, and remember, he's doing that, well, I've gone and caught a sniffle, as if he's a Scotsman. And even that snooty butler is like, you are not a Scotsman. Well, I am Mickey Mouse.
How dare he?
And you know, all that stuff is funny as hell. Really great. They lost,
really funny.
You know, no Shorty in this one. Obviously, they got rid of that idea, and they bring in Alison Doody, who I think is an Irish actress, to play the Austrian.
Yes.
Femme fatale, of course. And that thing about they've both been in bed with her as well. You know.
How did you know she was a Nazi? She talks in her sleep.
Oh, yes.
That whole bit where they're tied up to the chairs and they light fire to the to the carpets in the castle, and they're trying to get out of there, and they go through to the secret Nazi bunker, and that woman's in there. You know, the one from Austin Powers. Alarm! Alarm! It's just so cool.
It is. It's brilliant.
And this idea of his dad being a scholar, not an adventurer, but a scholar, and he having to take his dad along on it because his dad's even better than him at figuring stuff out and where stuff is and what stuff means. So you got loads of great treasure hunting and stuff. You got taking the rubbings off the shield, and they find that Tomb of the Knight underneath the
smashing the floor in with
Venetian catacombs and stuff. Yeah, smashing the floor of the library.
I always loved
the spot.
His dad's book in the film as well, like with all the different things.
The diary.
The diary. I loved that.
You didn't bring it, did you? You did. Should have mailed it to the Marx Brothers.
It's such a great prop. It's amazing how they can make a book so iconic in cinema. And
I seen a thing about that on the making of, and apparently it was like they did about, I don't know, eight or 9 pages of it, and then repeated
it. Yeah.
So when he's going through, it's actually just the same stuff over and over.
I've seen someone recently on a side note. I saw someone on TikTok or something who he's like a film prop remaking guy kind of thing, and he's out of all the photographs and stuff he could find about it, he's managed to recreate it.
I think I've seen the same one.
Yeah, and it was really cool.
Yeah, very cool. Great little thing. The whole idea that you need the diary is the key to finding it. And actually not in the end, because it's just as it's all there. But you got all the elements again. Like I say, that the lore of that particular artifact is all brought into it. The Nazis are after it again because once again they're after eternal life. They think if everybody can drink from it, and really cool sort of reason for them to be chasing it down. And a great rip-roaring adventure, a father and son movie, a buddy movie, a road movie. You got that great scene when they go into the airship as well, and then they have to escape from it in the plane, and then that leads to Sean Connery shoots the end of the plane out. I'm sorry, son, they got us. Yeah, great little gags in there, and that goes into a car chase, and the plane going through the tunnel, and that's a bit of a goofy comedy moment, but it fits, And then him using the birds to take down the other plane.
That's iconic.
Suddenly remembered my Charlemagne.
Let my armies be the rocks and the trees and the birds in the sky.
Absolute classic, isn't it? And,
it's so good. So good. And that,
when they end up in Germany and
he meets Hitler.
He meets Hitler at the book burning ceremony.
Yeah.
And Indiana ends up at the front of the line.
Gets an autograph
from Adolf.
It's such a good touch, that, isn't it? But that Michael Byrne, who plays the main sort of SS guy, he's great in it. Another great British actor brought in to play the Nazi there, though. Really good. He's a bastard. You want him killed straight away. When he punches him out of the airship, no ticket.
No ticket.
That's a classic Indiana Jones moment. That was done again with Kevin Smith and the rest of it. They love that.
And then we end up in with that tank scene in the desert where they're all chasing.
Yeah, brilliant film. Real great success as well. Massive box office hit. Like I said, the whole family went to watch it. What's not to love? John Williams returned to doing the score again, the great theme and all the great music. You got that great guy who plays the knight as well. You've chosen wisely.
It's a great end.
They bring that back with that guy. He chose poorly, and he ages like 100 years in 5 seconds. That was a bit of a callback to Tote getting melted, wasn't it? It was like
in the first one,
bit gruesome, a bit sort of stop motion.
I love all that in that end sequence with the puzzles and stuff that they've got to.
Yeah, and the leap of faith bit, where he has to go out and it's an optical illusion. But you need all that stuff in there. I think that's kind of part of it.
Yeah.
If you don't have that stuff as much, it loses something. So, like I say, they went back to that kind of thing in this. But as I said, a great father and son movie, really good sort of humor between them. The relationship that was never quite right between them becomes resolved because they share an adventure together, and that whole thing of him, she's like reaching for the cup and he's trying to let it go, and she falls to her death. And then instantly Indy is put in that position and it's his dad trying to save him, and he's like, I can just get it. And he's like, there's the whole lesson, let it go. Pulls him out. It's that's really good writing again. Was it Kazdan again?
It wasn't Gazdan, no. Gazdan only did the first film, strangely.
I knew he didn't do the second because it wasn't quite as good, but whoever did this one was good.
They kept on changing writers throughout it. It's always a strange thing with it. They never quite decided who should be on it. Jeffrey Bohm wrote it. But,
Great. Did a good job. It's very funny script.
Especially with the final lines of the film,
Henry Jones Jr.
Like Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana.
It was actually George Lucas's dog, who apparently was a massive Malamute, and he used to sit on the chair next to him and was also the inspiration for Chewbacca. Anyway, factoids, everybody knows these things, I'm sure. So, anyway, Last Crusade, absolutely popular. Like you said, some people's favourite.
Yeah.
It's either the first movie or this movie that are people's favourites. I like Raiders the most, but this is a very close second. Not in no small part because of Sean Connery. He is brilliant in it. He plays it to a T. He doesn't have to be the tough guy in this one. He lets Harrison Ford do all the tough guy stuff, and he's almost the comedy relief. He's great in that sense. Yeah. And you get a nice idea that Denham Elliott's character they were friends. You haven't brought Paul Marcus along, have you? And then when they hook up, they hook up in the tank and they're doing like something from their childhood where they did this little.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Partygate thing, yeah.
That's a funny joke in it as well, where he's like, Marcus Brody speaks 1,000 languages. He'll blend in. He'll be gone. He'll probably have the Grail already. And then it jump cuts to him in this marketplace. Hello, does anybody speak English? Standing out like a sore thumb. Great humour. Spielberg did a great job. Again,
as always,
it's a classic. You mentioned earlier it sort of rocketed those 80s blockbusters. We had Back to the Future after it, Ghostbusters, all of these ones we were talking about. And this is almost like the bookend to it because it's 1989. Yeah. It's the end of the 80s. One of the last great 80s blockbusters probably to come out of this kind of film. So, in a sense, Indiana Jones, the original trilogy now, it bookends that period
decade of
cinema. And you could do a lot worse than especially those two films. But as far as the original trilogy goes, I would rank them Raiders of the Lost Ark first, then Last Crusade, then Temple of Doom. Although, like I said, I probably watched Temple of Doom the most as a kid.
Yeah, I think Last Crusade, Raiders, Temple for me, but they're very close films, and they're just so great. And what a trilogy, and what a treat.
I mean, it is a solid trilogy. When we talk about things like Back to the Future and the original Star Wars, they're as close as you get to perfect trilogies, really. And they're the trilogy of trilogies for me. Star Wars, the original three, Back to the Future, and of course, Indiana Jones. In terms of family films, anyway. So Indiana Jones is probably the top of that stack as well.
I can't forget how wonderful it was.
Thank you. It was rather wonderful.
If you have enjoyed this video, please consider supporting us at buymeacoffee.com or join us on Patreon. All links below.